What is up, RotoGrinders? Good morning. It is early. It is earlier than normal. Blender typically in about a half hour will be yelling in your ear. Well, welcome you to the day. 10:30 on the East Coast. Of course, you have early baseball. It is a 5-game DFS slate. Blender still rocking out to the music over there. Yeah, you're loving that slow fade. We have I just got word the tiers today, the tier rankings. It's gonna fire up the chat for sure. What's up, chat? Hit that like button, subscribe, turn on those notifications, do all those things. Taking you all the way up the lock. I believe it's 12:10. Give me those thummy thumbs. There it is, Blender. Why are you going? You're doing a thumb down. What is it? You want thumbs to be down?
It doesn't matter. The algorithm doesn't care. Just click on the screen somewhere. That's probably good enough.
Click anything? Like you're saying, if you click a thumb down, that's worth just as much as a thumb up? I don't know.
Well, it's worth something. It's better than nothing.
It might be worse than nothing. Like 100 thumbs down is better than like 10 thumbs up. Like, I don't know.
No, maybe not, but 100 thumbs down is better than no thumbs down. I want thumbs no matter what.
Would you see a movie that has no ratings or a movie that has like 100 people said it's terrible? Like, which movie you seen first?
I think the ones with 100 people think it's terrible because people are stupid. So like at least it's something people are watching.
People that are cinephiles. How about
no one's ever seen before? It's like, what's the chances of that being good?
Well, but I don't know. If 100 people tell you a restaurant's terrible, or you have no idea and you have no thoughts, that nobody else has given you any opinion in a restaurant, like you assume that okay, it's probably not great. 100 people?
That wasn't the question that you asked. That wasn't. It's not that I don't know. Though. If I go and I see a restaurant has 0 ratings, like 0, like nothing.
Yeah.
Like that's a sign. Imagine walking by a restaurant. There's 2 restaurants. One has no one in it, and one has 50 people in it that hate it. At least they're.
Well, why are the people in the restaurant why are they in a restaurant they hate? I don't understand.
I have no idea. They're gonna badly review it at some time, but it's surely better than going to the restaurant that no one's sitting down.
Shout out to Hoosiers hang banners in chat saying I'm on Team Dean here. Shout out to Jeffrey as well. Jeffrey says, "Give me all the plays I can get while I'm mail manning out here." Shout out to the mailmen and mail ladies because that seems like a tough job. So shout out to them. But there's no way you can do that, right? I can't imagine. You can listen to podcasts all day. I think that's something you can do. I guess this is kind of a podcast.
I mean, as long as you don't have to deal with people. I mean, I could deliver the mail.
Dogs, maybe. I don't know. That's the stereotype, I suppose, right? But Brian says,
who cares?
We got Alex. We have all the mailmen in the chat, apparently. Alex is mailmanning as well. Shout out to the mailmen. All right. Bryce says, everyone complains about McDonald's, but still goes. I think people complain about what time it closes, right? As far as breakfast. We're talking breakfast. I guess I don't know why I'm making it breakfast, but yeah. It's the convenience, I suppose, is why people go to McDonald's. But all right. Blender. It is a 5-gamer. We actually got some positive weather, which we haven't seen basically all season long when it comes to hitting weather. There's a fire emoji today in Baltimore. 94 degrees is the temperature. In 55 previous games there, and I wonder how the numbers are probably a little bit goofy with Baltimore just because they've changed the configurations of that ballpark so drastically. So obviously the way the Weather Edge works, Kevin Roth. Basically it's 95 previous games with similar weather. This is how many runs are scored. This is how many homers are scored. This is what ERA was, it's data tested pretty far back. But I wonder, Baltimore feels like it could be a little bit different just because how they, Aaron Judge proof the left field out there. But despite that, or I don't know how that's factored in, to be honest. I assume it's just like the ballpark, and that's that. There's no sort of divide when it comes when they change configurations. 55 previous games, a bump in homers at 6.5%, a bump in runs at 10%. It's just nice to see. I don't like the heat. I feel bad for the mailmen, the mail ladies out there, people that are working outside, lawn care services, all that. But for our purposes, for homers, if you like homers, if you like runs, Blender, and if you like betting homers, if you like betting overs, I know you're a big over better. You probably like the unders a lot more than the overs because you don't watch the games. But more runs. We didn't get a lot last night. If you watched the baseball last night, it was kind of a snooze fest. I was begging for a double from anybody. In any event, it is heating up is the point. Fire emoji for Baltimore, for the Mets, the Cubs and the Mets. I was kind of excited to see again because we'll talk about it, but the Cubs are my team today. I don't know if you have a team, if you have thoughts, we'll kind of dig into it. Of course, we're going to talk pitching in a second. The pitchers are not great. Slim pickings, not a lot of options, falls off pretty quickly. And even the first few are not amazing, but like they're the best. They're clearly the best. But as far as weather today, New York, tough ballpark to hit homers in, but temperatures around 80 degrees, winds blowing out the center at 10 miles per hour. So, positive hitting environment for the Cubs and for the Mets as well. We did get the Yankees lineup, by the way, as the show started. Volpe, Soto, Judge, Rizzo, Torres, Verdugo, Cabrera, Wells, and Grisham. Giants, let's see, Mets just came in, and is Lindor playing? Lindor's not playing. He left last night's game with an illness. He's not playing the day game. I think that matters. Nemo, Marte, Stewart is DHing. Alonso, that's the polar bear. Polar bear doesn't like it when it gets hot. Well, he does, but just, in theory, real polar bears, they don't like the heat. I'm not a zoologist. Alonso, McNeil, Beatty, Bader, Wendell, Navarez. That falls off pretty rough there at the end. Joey Wendell, Navarez, Bader, kind of a defensive outfielder. But yeah, the lack of Lindor in that lineup. Blender, what's up? What is your thoughts as far as today's slates? We'll go through all the pitchers. Kyle Bradish is making his debut for the season. Tough spot against the Yankees. He did throw, I think, 77 pitches, I want to say, in his last rehab start. I think he had 3 in total. But, give me this screenshot, Blender. What are your thoughts as far as today's slate?
Well, I think today it's a 5-game slate. So obviously this is a smaller size slate. Obviously not absurdly small, but as the slate gets smaller, the more and more I think of leverage. The more and more. Like 12-game slate, are you stacking against the chalk pitcher? Probably not, right? Are you doing something? Oh, you're going to play a team with, the second lowest implied run total. No, probably not. 5-game slate, different story. Especially on smaller slates, like embracing variant situations where pitching side isn't bad and the hitting side isn't bad either, but one of them is going to give and they're both going to be owned, and deciding which way to go. I think the key to this slate, we'll get into the top end of pitching, but Cabrera and Eovaldi, probably the 2 top pitchers on the slate. But on DraftKings, you got to play 2 pitchers. So there's going to be some ownership on some other guys that I think, like Rodon and Harrison, will get enough ownership that there may be more value in stacking teams like the Orioles or the Red Sox, or vice versa. It may be the type of thing where, a lot of people are going to play the Orioles, so actually Rodon comes in lower owned than we thought. A lot of people are going to play the Red Sox, and then Harrison comes in lower owned than we thought. Those are the 2 main situations that I'm looking. Everything else is a little bit more straightforward. Like, you're probably not playing, there's not going to be much ownership on like guys like Peter Lambert or Ben Brown or Josh Winkowski, or even someone like Mitchell Parker at 8,700. So like the Texas Rangers may be fairly popular bats, but they're not facing a pitcher that's really going to be owned much. When in doubt, I'd much rather just play teams where if they do well, it knocks out like a quarter of the lineups in the contest who are playing the pitcher against.
Is that called leverage? You just described leverage?
Yes, that's one of the 3 levers of DFS, as I explained in the theory of DFS.com.
Just don't bring up leverage when Cheese is around. He's not a big fan of that term. I don't know if you know. I'm not sure if you're aware.
No, he's a fan of the term. He just doesn't like it when people use the term incorrectly.
Yeah, that's pretty fair to say. All right. Is Dave going to be on later? I'm trying to see who else is. I know Squirrel's coming on. I think it's Carty. I think it's Squirrel and Carty. I'm pretty sure that's who's coming in for crunch time. And of course, Kevin Roth. You got Kevin Roth, chief meteorologist Kevin Roth on top of things as well. Crunch time coming in around 11:40. So we're here for an hour. Get comfortable. Yeah, man. We're I was digging in this slate pretty hard last night, and I fell in love with the Cubs. It's just weird to say. and I was happy to see that it's good hitting weather. Of course, they're without their two best hitters. Well, two of their best hitters, depending on how you want to frame it, but Bellinger and Suzuki. But general rules, Blunder. I have my general rules. You can always break those general rules, but I just have to stack against a pitcher that has a higher walk rate than a K rate, and that's it. That's one of my general rules. I got to do it. Adrian Hauser is one of those pitchers you referenced. 12.3% Ks in the season, 14% walks in the season. And I know it's kind of small sample stuff still, just 23 innings. It's just weird kind of looking at his profile because he's been unlucky when it comes to BABIP 346. He's been unlucky when it comes to left on base, 54%. But he's been super lucky when it comes to giving up homers. 0.38 homers per 9, 3.3% homer to fly ball rate. So that's going to change as well. Because ERA has been a disaster. The Sierra is still not good. Over 8 as far as the ERA. The Sierra is over 6. Very, very clear the highest one on the board. Rodon's the other one that's just and I've watched him pitch several times. He walks too many guys. He labors. He sweats a lot. So I know he's gonna sweat a lot in that heat in Baltimore. You watch him pitch, he's gonna sweat a lot.
So you're judging a guy not from anything else other than meat sweats.
I don't know if it's induced by meat. I'm just telling, if you watch Rodon pitch, he will labor out there sometimes, and it's going to be in the 90s. And if he has long innings, especially I don't know if you've seen these new uniforms, Blunder. I don't know if you watched a second of baseball this season. You're aware of the new uniforms this year are a disaster? Are you aware of this or no?
I'm aware that something was wrong with Fanatics or something, and something happened. They couldn't get I don't know. I heard about. I saw it on Twitter somewhere.
Yeah, they've done a bad job. I mean, you can see through some of the pants. You can see through. They've corrected some of it, but you can see some. Not that you're looking the big head out necessarily, but
that's how you're getting your edge, Dean. You're looking through see-through pants to see who's sweating more.
I'm just telling you, these are the things you notice when you watch the games. Are you now inclined to watch more baseball or less baseball going forward? I sold you. I'm just saying.
I mean, it obviously depends on the players.
Rodon gives up fly balls, and it's going to be hot. And he's kind of like one of your next man up as far as the pitching options. You talk about how popular the pitchers are going to be. I just pulled up the ownership stuff on DK, and yeah, it's 55% for Cabrera, 47% for Eovaldi. The third most popular guy is Rodon at 26%, Harrison at 21%, Bradish at 20%, Hauser at 12%. Hauser's cheap, and certainly, you can always make it through a lineup. We saw yesterday with the Marlins, not a good pitcher, but he took care of the terrible Rockies. He cruised for 6+ or so. You mentioned Winkowski. He's just not stretched out enough. We got him projected for 67 pitches, and it's not like he's 4K. He's 6'3". There's no chance you play him on FanDuel. I wouldn't play him on DK either. He's only getting 2% ownership. Lambert's cheap, and again, the Marlins kind of stink too. So I would play him before Winkowski if you're looking to scrape that barrel. Parker's weird. The last two Washington pitchers yesterday, Trevor Williams was really, really good versus Texas again. He's yet to give up a homer this season, and Mitchell Parker is yet to give up a homer this season, which is kind of weird. That should come to an end soon enough. Parker's not been a big fly ball guy for what it's worth, and he doesn't come over with a ton of fanfare, but he's been pretty good this year. He's actually been really good as far as the surface numbers, 1.69 ERA. Also he's been kind of lucky when it comes to keeping the ball in the ballpark and just throwing strikes. He's a strike thrower, 3.2% as far as the walks, 22% when it comes to the Ks. Shannon and Lambert in chat is saying my cousin Peter is not good, so the Marlins in play for sure. Not sure if that is your cousin or not, but well played either way. Brandon saying I love sweaty pitchers. I was just making a comment. Shannon's talking about the uniforms are a disaster. There's the thing with Bally's right now. If you want to watch the game on a Bally's network, I think 14 different teams are affected due to Bally's apparently going to bankrupt or the process of going bankrupt.
They're probably doing you a favor. Who wants to watch garbage baseball in May?
I do. I want to watch garbage baseball in May.
They could have a blackout here And I wouldn't
Yeah.
even know. It's like everyone's complaining and stuff. It's like, who's turning on baseball? Who's turning on any of this to watch?
If you have a sweat blender, say you got a sweat, like you take a peek, you're like, oh my God, I'm in
Not a
first
meat
place.
sweat. Are you talking about a DFS
Not
sweat?
not a Carlos Rodon. I'm talking about like a DFS sweat. Do you say, oh, I'm going to fire up? The game's on like ESPN. I assume you have access to ESPN. I don't know. But do you turn it on? Did you pause the wrestling for a second and say, all right, let's watch a little, let's check out my,
I mean, if
my
it's a
hitter?
West Coast game, obviously, late in the slate or something. Sure, I guess so. Right?
What
If
do
I
you
have the
mean? Why
Diamondbacks or
West Coast?
something and need something or other, I guess so. Doesn't happen that often.
Well, wait, it depends. Oh, yeah, I see West Coast because that's the end of the slate. Okay.
Right.
Well, it has to be. It would have to be a West Coast game because unless it's like an afternoon game or something like that, like a spring slate or something of that sort. I don't know. You're not like in bed though by 11, are you? Maybe you are. Maybe you okay. Didn't think so. You're up late trying to get your bets in.
What am I watching with West Coast baseball games that don't matter?
I don't know. I don't know what you're up to these days. I have no idea. We don't really discuss these things. Who knows what you're up to? I couldn't tell you. But yeah, I'm just gonna play Eovaldi and Cabrera. They're not amazing. They're pretty good, right? Eovaldi, he's got one of the longest leashes in baseball. I think he's thrown at least 87 pitches in every single start this season. Every single start this season, he's got at least 5 1/3. Washington's not a team we're afraid of. So, and then the other one is, Cabrera versus the Rockies. We know how horrendous the Rockies are. I know that's a lot of people are just going to be pairing those two together, and it might get me out of a couple lineups that I want because we do, Blender, wait for it. We live in the world of a salary cap, so you can't just like load up on, Judge and Seager and whatever, if you're going to double stack. I don't even want to say double barrel the studs, but I guess by default, that's sort of what that is, right? I wouldn't say that they're not bad pitchers. They're fine pitchers. They're better than average pitchers, but they're not it's even hard to double barrel these days because are there even 2 studs to double barrel with is a whole other conversation. But is that your approach or is that not your approach? I know you kind of talked about, the leverage angle, but I think I'm just going to play both studs mostly and just figure it out salary wise. And okay, I'll have to punt a bat or 2 here or there, but Cabrera, Eovaldi, the clear top 2 plays. Do you have a preference amongst those 2?
I would probably pick Cabrera because of his strikeout rate. I mean, when in doubt, strike. They're playing in Miami and he's facing the Rockies, and he has a 30+% strikeout rate. So I prefer him only because Eovaldi has been walking guys a little bit more than this year at least. But I mean, I don't mind the matchup against the Nationals either. So they're clear 1 and 2. If you want to prioritize one or the other, I would prefer Cabrera over Eovaldi.
Yeah.
But the thing is that I think the second team, talking about the other 3 pitchers that I would roster are Rodon, Harrison, and Hauser. Now Hauser's obviously cheap at 5,600.
Yeah, so he can, work his way through a lineup. Of course, he's not good. He's been bad this year, but he absolutely could weasel his way to 5+ innings, and the Cubs can get 1 run or so, and strikes out 3 or 4, and he gets 12 points. Of course that can happen. So sure.
Because this Cubs lineup, I mean, Patrick Wisdom's in the lineup today, and that's 2 strikeouts right there for Hauser. I mean, isn't his strikeout rate
Hauser doesn't strike out anybody, but yeah.
But I mean, it does. Yeah. But it does help at the bottom of this Cubs order. I mean, is not particularly good. I mean, I guess Madrigal is not really a strikeout hitter. I mean, but Morel is happy. I mean, the Cubs can strike out here. This is not. Yeah, they're facing a guy that's more likely to walk 4 guys than strike out 4 guys. But for 5,600, if you want to spend up and play a full Rangers stack or a full Orioles stack or Yankees stack or something like that, I mean, you're going to have to find something cheap to play. And I think Hauser being able to throw 90 pitches, I'd side with that than taking some guys that, probably don't even go 70 pitches at all. So Hauser would be on my list. But I mean, I have no problem playing the Cubs against him either.
Yeah.
But then the Rodon Harrison thing. Rodon looked great his last start, but before that,
he was sweaty. Besides that,
yes, very sweaty. To me, the difference between Rodon and Harrison, I think Rodon clearly has more upside than Kyle Harrison. Kyle Harrison, in this matchup, I think is much more likely to like limit damage, right? Because he doesn't walk many people. Like the thing I like about Harrison is that he really doesn't have a high walk rate, but he will give up contact. And this Boston lineup, I mean, the bottom of the lineup is not all that great. I mean, the Boston lineup isn't that great.
The top of the lineup ain't great either. The whole thing ain't
right.
great.
It's not. But I'm saying just for contact, like it's not the like I see the Red Sox hitting Harrison. It just depends on where the ball goes. And if he has good BABIP, I mean, Harrison could have a great game. Could pitch 6 innings with 4 strikeouts, no earned runs, and do perfectly fine for 8,200. Rodon, on the other hand, I mean, he could strike out 10 guys. I mean, he has that type of upside, but he also has the downside of 2.1 innings pitched and 8 earned runs. I think Harrison is less likely to get that in his range of outcomes. But that's the main reason why I like both of these games. That playing Rodon and playing the Orioles, playing the Giant, playing Harrison and playing the Red Sox. And I think at these prices, I think the Red Sox end up being chalkier than the Orioles, just due to the fact that you plug in Cabrera, you plug in Eovaldi, and it's just cheaper to get guys like Rem Snyder, Connor Wong batting 5th. Bobby Dahlback is 2,200. Like it's much easier to fit in Red Sox than you are to fit in, at least currently, what we have projected for the Orioles line.
Boston was so desperate they signed Dom Smith yesterday. They didn't put their lineup out until like a half hour before the game started. They just had to finalize his contract. I had some Dahlback in. I had to get it out. And like now I might need Dahlback again because I'm now just kind of realizing I thought that Mervis was one of my favorite cheapies today. He's not in the lineup today for the Cubs. And it's not just no Bellinger. It's not no Suzuki. And Mervis is not great, but he's a power prospect. Kind of a prospect still. He's like 26, 27. He's getting up there in age. At some point, you lose your prospect status. But also no Dansby Swanson. So the Cubs aren't even trying, which is kind of a bummer. He's one of their better hitters. No JD Martinez today if you missed it. No Stanton if you missed it. Who else? Hunter Goodman is in. Wisdom, we typically only see him start versus lefties, but he's starting right on right. Day game after night game, sometimes you get different lineups. That's kind of what's going on here, I suppose. No Lamont Wade, which is kind of interesting. I guess, you figure it's tricky, right? Because they platoon him. And when a lefty comes in, he gets the boot. But they're starting a righty, and it's like, oh, well, why is he not starting? Well, I guess because Winkowski would only go through the lineup maybe once, possibly twice. I'm not sure. But yeah, they started their other lefties, that Conforto and Yastrzemski started, but no Wade for whatever reason. That's, again, some of the stuff is just day game after night game. The Rodon thing, like, he's been pretty lucky. I've watched several of his starts this year. Fly ball guy, and he's been lucky as far as homer in the fly ball, 6.7% homer in the fly ball rate. Left on base percentage, 87%. Walking too many guys as well, 10.3%. I'm liking Baltimore a little bit more now with that weather too. Of course, the Yankees get to play with it as well. Bradish was a good pitcher last year. We should acknowledge that. How many pitches?
He's come. I mean, I know he pitched 77 pitches in his rehab.
Get about 80, right?
Yeah, but I mean, that doesn't mean I don't think he's going to throw 95 pitches or anything. So, like,
you don't need 95 pitches.
Play. Yeah. I mean, on this slate, Bradish is still in play, but
yeah,
I mean, there's going to be a ceiling there just in the fact of I don't think his first start of the season they're going to push him.
We're giving him 88.
If you wanted to play Bradish, I think it's fine. I prefer not. I prefer to play Rodon over Bradish, and hope that Rodon is like his last start and not the one before it. But I mean, I think just from a ceiling perspective, this Yankees-Orioles game, being that it's 90 plus degrees out there, it's clearly the best hitting weather.
Yeah. It's
I mean,
pretty good in New
Baltimore
York,
isn't
too. It's the
as
ballpark's nice.
great of a hitting ballpark as it used to be. But all these guys have like all these lineups. Both these lineups have power. We don't have the Orioles lineup yet, for whatever reason. I mean, you could fit in or Jorge Mateo, a cheap guy. Like there's some cheap guys on the bottom of the Baltimore lineup that you could still pay up for some of these more expensive players in your stack. But I could totally see Rodon and Bradish both, combining for 16 strikeouts. I mean, like these are pitchers that actually can strike people out. So while it is good hitting weather, they actually do have to put the ball in play.
I think Bradish might have actually been an all-star last year, if I remember correctly. 2.83 ERA last season in a pretty big sample, 168 innings. Sierra was 3.76, 25% K rate, 6% walk rate, pretty good. More of a ground ball guy than a fly ball guy. He's a pretty good pitcher. I don't think he was great in his rehab stuff, but I don't really care about that. A lot of times they're just sort of like working on things and figuring stuff out. It's sort of like spring training. So I try not to look into that stuff too hard unless it's like a complete implosion. I assume he is fine and good to go. I would have liked to see Stanton in this lineup because there's a little bit more K opportunity there for him. But again, we don't need him to go 7 innings or even 6+. We'll take it. 88 is our current projection. You know what? This is the bat. I should switch over to what does RG have? Probably something really similar. The bat's got 88. And RG's got 89. So they are in agreement as far as his median projection for balls thrown today. Number one is Eovaldi. Eovaldi, like, again, he's got one of the longest leashes in baseball. The old vets, 95 pitches is his projection, 93 for Rodon, 90 for Hauser. Hopefully a lot of those are bad. And yeah, Winkowski 68. Brown, the rookie, 75. Lambert, 77. Parker, another rookie, 80. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to have much Rodon. Like, in the expert survey today, was like, what's the player you're afraid of? He was one of the guys I'm afraid of not having, just like playing well. I am curious to see what we get from Baltimore. We are projecting lefty masher James McCann to be in the lineup, both McCann and Rushman. So I assume one will be DHing. Again, we don't have that lineup just yet. Wait, just got a notification. Maybe one's coming in now. No, it's not. No. And obviously, we don't have Texas, right? Because that's a little bit later. I don't think we have Washington either. That's about 2:40 or so. Slate starts at 12:10, Blender. Then you wait an hour, and you got Yankees, Baltimore, Chicago, Mets. 30 minutes more, you got San Fran, Boston. Another half hour, you got Washington and Texas. Anything you want to say as far as pitchers? By the way, in chat, Eovaldi looks like a low-level guy on The Sopranos who gets whacked. Would you sign off on that? Could you pick Eovaldi out of a lineup? I don't know.
No, I have to Google. What does he look like? Let's see. Nathan.
Maybe producer
Eovaldi.
Steve can throw him up on the screen for us. Nathan Eovaldi.
He just looks like a normal white guy. What's the big deal?
Well, I mean, have you seen The Sopranos? That's the low-level guys.
Yeah, but I mean, that could be. I could pull up a million. I mean, I'm just going.
If you don't have like gray sideburns or something else might happen. If you don't have like a ponytail like Furio.
I'm going through his pictures. There's nothing weird looking. He looks like what?
Were you a Sopranos guy back in the day, Blender?
I mean, I watched the show. Yeah.
Okay. Just ask you, did you like the show? Yes. Fine.
Yeah, the show's good. I'm just going through these Nathan Eovaldi photos just to see. It just looks like
look. I'm just the vessel. Whatever the chat is, whatever they're having to say, I'm just going to fire it back to you. So that wasn't my opinion. But
why are you even bringing it up? The chat oftentimes has awful opinions.
I like to acknowledge. I'm a man of the people, Blender. Some of us are, some of us aren't. I like to be a man of the people. And
I'm a man of the people, but only the right people. Some of the people, I just can't be a man of.
I'm a man for you, not for you. No, not you. Yeah, you, maybe you. We'll see. We'll give you. We need a bigger sample. Alex and Chapel is saying it's a great day to leave 1,000 on the table. That's not a terrible idea. I guess it's always. I shouldn't say it's always a great day, but you can always do that. Is that something you've considered, just leaving some salary on the table today? Have you built any lineups yet?
I mean, not on purpose, but I mean, if that's the way it works out, I wouldn't play a lineup where it's like I'm going to play Peter Lambert and Adrian Hauser, and then still play a cheap stack and leave 3,000 on the table. Like I'm not going to do that. But I mean, if you're playing a lineup and everything's correlated and you've left 1,200 on the table, and you're still playing, 5 guys, that's fine. Like you could play a Yankee stack and leave money on the table, and instead of, you're playing Judge Soto and like you're not playing Osvaldo Cabrera, you're playing the third baseman of some other team that's correlated and leaving 700 or something. Like all of that would be fine.
Did you hit any of these pitcher props? I'm seeing Cabrera at 6.5, Rodon at 5.5. The juice is different depending on 5.5 for Eovaldi, 5.5 for Harrison, 4.5 for Bradish. Any of these pitcher props? I know you hit them like usually in the middle of the night when you get your best line possibly.
Right
Now the line's like
right now as far as K prop, I'm just looking at the bat. The best stuff that's currently on the board, I guess. Ugh. I mean, you got like Cabrera under 6.5 strikeouts at plus 114 on Caesars.
It's a pretty good number.
That's a bit there. Bradish over 4.5 hits plus 120 on DraftKings. That's still available.
Not a big walk guy, more of a contact guy. He'll strike you out too, obviously.
Then anything else here? Kyle Harrison under 3.5 earned runs, minus 155.
That's a lot of juice. I don't like laying 155. Do you lay 155?
But
like I got to feel really good about it.
Juice is, then you bet more. The percent the edge is the edge. Who cares?
He probably won't give up 4+. He certainly can, but yeah, I don't like giving up 155. Like unless I feel really, really good about it. But
well, you should. It's the same edge that I gave you on the other ones. It's the same thing.
I just don't like the
12% edge. What does it matter?
Have you have some stuff locked in that's already changed?
Probably.
As far as
probably, I don't know. I have to look. I think
you don't know if you've made bets or not. Yeah.
No, I do, but I don't know what it was. I mean, I have 37 things in.
Oh, okay. Right? You're betting like hockey and basketball, and you're all over the place, right?
No, it's mostly baseball. I have some basketball only because I had promos that you got to use. They give you the SGP, NBA, whatever, and I just go to the prop tool, and I just whatever's there, put 3 of them together, and I'm done.
I used 2 last night. I had 2 yesterday, and I hit them both. And I had to bet against my Heat, but that this is what you got to do. When your team is terrible,
Hard Rock's giving you promos of even to what $250
up to 2. Yeah, it was if you can wager, they would let you play up to $250. You get your money back on it. But yeah, I had 2, I had 1 for baseball and 1 for basketball. I was kind of surprised. Like, okay, let's go. And I hit one on the Dodgers, and I bet against the Heat because the Heat are, terrible and wounded and whatever, overachievers, and Boston's really, really good at basketball. And we had Boston, did a little correlation, the 2 studs for Miami. I use the term studs loosely. Bam and Hero under on their PRA, and then over, Boston winning by like 14 or 15, and that was not even close. That was a mauling, but nobody cares about that. But yeah, that's you got to take advantage of your promos. But I was, I'm here in Florida where there's only 1 book, so they don't necessarily have to give you anything. I suppose they have their monopoly. So I'm excited when I get a little bit of porridge. But we failed on those several times. That's probably why they've given me more than once, because I keep failing on them. We finally hit. So we have like 4 or 5.
The chat wants home run props, and I'm not even sure if there's anything to even give. I'm looking through this.
It's hot, man. We should get homers today.
No. Here's I know I have this. Here's assuming he's in the lineup, right? Right. Yeah. Jesse Winker plus 825 on BetMGM.
Oh, the flirter. Do we have Washington's lineup? Is that officially out? Did I miss it?
No.
Oh,
we got the Orioles. Okay, the Orioles lineup just came out. Oh, Kowser's going to be in the. Okay, that's a switch. Henderson, Rushton, Mountcastle, Santander, Westberg, Mateo, Kowser, McCann, McKenna. So even though he's a lefty, Kowser's going to be in that lineup.
So who is not in there that was expected to be in there?
Ramon Urias.
Okay, you weren't going to play him anyway, I don't think. Santander and Mountcastle both in there. That's good to see. McKenna, the cheapie, he's a Cedric Mullins, can spell him at some point. Just there's a chance if situation calls for it. McKenna gets just 2 at bats. Bottom of the 6, McKenna's up with a guy or 2 on. Rodon's out. You presume a righty jumps in there. Arizona had me so tilted last night, by the way. They ran out 4 lefties in a row. Now, I don't know if the game was over essentially anyway, basically the entire way. But like on the bench was Max Muncy and Ohtani. And I think Arizona was trying to be clever and saying, let's just not bring a righty in because that's going to bring Ohtani and Muncy into the game. And we just keep Chris Taylor in the game. I wonder if that was their thought process, but like they were down 7-0 basically the entire way, or 5-0. But you rarely see that blender. 4 lefties in a row. Lefty starter backed up by 3 lefties. Just everybody was a lefty through last night. They had no righties throwing. It kept Ohtani in the bench, but the game was over anyway. Anyways, just a little bit of the game within the game stuff, which I thought was pretty interesting. You don't care about that, though. Final thoughts as far as pitchers. I want to talk some stacks. You have some power rankings, which I've not seen. I found out about it right before the show started as far as our tiers. It's going to get the chat fired up. We can get them riled up already. Tell us in chat your favorite and least favorite cereal. Favorite and least favorite. Let's see if the blender is a man of the people. His tiers are actually lining up with the chat. But give me your final thoughts as far as pitchers.
I mean, just like I said before, I mean, my pitching pool, I'm playing 4 lineups, so it's not like I'm playing a million lineups anyway.
Yeah.
But Eovaldi, Cabrera, obviously, and then Rodon, Harrison, Hauser, and I don't mind playing any of the bats against those 3 pitchers. I mean, can you play Bradish? Sure. But it would be right on the line right there. Can you see the thing is that like these people tune into these shows and they go, well, what do you think is going to happen? I don't know what's going to happen. All I know is that Rodon is either going to pitch well. And there's a lot of bimodal stuff at the ends of these ranges of outcomes.
It's not bimodal.
So
the most likely thing is somewhere in the middle. The most likely thing is something in the middle where
these are pitchers that maybe you don't get in the middle, right? It either Rodon does well and blanks the Orioles, or he does awful and the Orioles put up 10 runs. So I like both sides. So in my 4 lineups, I'll probably have a Rodon lineup and an Orioles lineup. And I think the same for Harrison. Having a Harrison lineup and a Boston lineup. And then we can talk about bats. But I mean, I don't think it's if you're going to be plugging in Eovaldi, Cabrera into all your lineups, it's going to be, I mean, get off the board in some way because you're eating a ton of ownership.
I'm going to have Bobby Dahlback or something. I got to save money too as well. Yeah, Mervis was my guy, but like I have to actually update the expert survey. Who's my random? Who's going to homer today? That's unsurprising, or that's going to be coming out of nowhere. I gotta do that in the air as well. Maybe we'll figure it out as we go. Somebody off the board. I think Mervis was. He was my salary saver actually. Anyways, the people are throwing out a bunch of cereal in chat. Let me just check and see what we have collectively before we pull up the board. As far as who did the rankings today, myself, Kyle Murray, Head Chopper, SquirrelPatrol, Scroll Beyond a bit as well. We're tasked with rostering or ranking 5 stacks, 5 of the 10, right? And collectively, we have Texas number 1 blender, and we'll talk about this. We got Texas, Boston, the Yankees, San Fran, the Cubs 5th. And man, I'm really trying to make the Cubs happen, and I'm just so bummed that their lineup stinks. But like otherwise, it looks great. But they're without 3 of their best hitters, at least 3 of their best hitters. No Swanson, no Bellinger, no Suzuki. Mervis isn't one of their best hitters, but he's like cheap and he's got power. There's Baltimore, a little bit of Baltimore love, and then Miami. One person ranked Miami, so like it's not even like a clear like these are the top 2 or 3. I mean, up top, it's Texas and Boston, and then there's a gap. But let's go ahead and pull your board up, Blender, because I'm going to need to explain your cereal choices. There's a lot of cereal takes in chat, but oh yeah, Cinnamon Toast Crunch is the chalk. You are a chalk donkey, Blender. Look at you. I thought you were a GPP guy, not when it comes to breakfast, apparently. Explain your board.
I mean, what's there to explain? Cinnamon Toast Crunch is obviously the top tier. It's the only one in the top tier. It's number one. It's God tier. It's the God tier. It's the Cadillac of cereals. Cinnamon Toast Crunch, the most versatile. You could drink it with milk, without milk. Tastes good. Tastes good, even slightly stale. It doesn't even matter. Cinnamon Toast Crunch, easily greatest breakfast cereal to have ever existed. Right?
Have you tried? They branched out. They have like a churro flavor from the maker. If you love Cinnamon Toast Crunch, I've just seen the box before. Have you tried that before? Or you're Cinnamon Toast Crunch all the way, and that's that.
No, sometimes I'll like French Toast Crunch is also
that's
very
what, okay,
good.
yeah. They've gotten created over there.
They're little French toast things. It looks like but French Toast Crunch is much more similar to Captain Crunch than it is.
Captain Crunch kind of sucks. Overrated.
Captain Crunch is okay. I put Captain Crunch. I put in the second tier. I put with Corn Pops also. Corn Pops is number 2. Corn Pops is more of a dry cereal that you eat without milk, but Corn Pops has sweet enough.
You eat it like it's like a snack.
Yeah, put it in a bowl. You just like it's popcorn. It's Corn Pops.
So
that's what it is.
It's
popcorn.
Tres Leches Toast Crunch. They're not messing around over there.
These are all like the experimental stuff that you see every once in a while in the store, and you go, oh, okay, let me try that, and then you bring it home and you go, oh, this is awful.
The thing with Corn Pops, you talk about Cinnamon Toast Crunch being like you can like let it sit in the milk for a little bit. If you have Corn Pops, once you pour that milk in, do not make any plans. You have like 93 seconds tops to eat. Otherwise, your Corn Pops have expired. That's it.
Yeah.
10-minute
old Corn Pops with milk. You might as well just throw it out. Throw it out at that point.
The expiration date is like 26 seconds.
Right.
That's it. Dude, you got to be really fast. Is that Honey Nut Cheerios?
The middle tier, Honey Nut Cheerios. To me, Honey Nut Cheerios and Frosted Flakes are the two cereals where it's not exciting, right? But perfectly, I could wake up, have a nice bowl of Honey Nut Cheerios, have a nice bowl of Frosted Flakes, have a nice, enjoyable cereal experience. Both you could eat dry as well and perfectly fine, right? But not exciting. It's like, okay, Honey Nut Cheerios taste, it's there. It's okay. It's better than plain Cheerios because plain Cheerios taste like nothing, right?
Stink, yeah.
Honey Nut Cheerios are regular cornflakes. You have cornflakes or Special K or corn checks or any of these types of things. There's no flavor to any of these things.
I like the corn checks. The Honey Nut Cheerios are inoffensive. Like most people are like, nobody's gonna hate them. Nobody really loves them, but it's in the perfect spot. You did a good job here, Blender. Right. And I like your take on Lucky Charms too. Lucky Charms like sneakily stink, but continue.
It doesn't sneakily stink. Lucky Charms is alphabets essentially, with these little freeze-dried sugar tofu thing. They're not marshmallows. I don't know what they are. I don't know what they're made of. They're made of some type of space debris of some type. They taste like insulation. Like if I just went into my wall and just like, I'm going to put these little dots of inspiration in my alphabets. Lucky Charms is not as bad as the last tier, but Lucky Charms is not good. And I also want to put in my, at least my fourth tier, anything that pseudo has fruit in it. Pseudo. So we're talking about Fruity Pebbles, Fruit Loops, Tricks, anything where their colors are supposed to be fake a banana.
Fruit coloring.
But it's not. These are all fake stuff. If I wanted to put actual fruit in my cereal, I'll just get fresh fruit. I don't want it to taste like, I want my cereal to taste like grains. I don't want it grains and sugar. If you could mix the two, grains and sugar together, that's fine. Those are my favorite cereals. But once you start adding, like, I don't like when I don't know about you, Dean. I don't like when my milk turns different colors. Like I'm not even Cocoa Puffs, and people like, well, that's like chocolate milk. It's not really. It's
like Cocoa Krispies or whatever. Like you get like chocolate milk all of a sudden. Like that was fun back in the day, right? As a kid, you didn't like that as a child?
No, disgusting. And then when you have the Fruit Loops, whatever, and then it turns like you got green milk and purple milk.
That's a funky color. That does not exist on the color wheel. Whatever the Fruit Loops color is, it turns your milk whatever color that is not a real color.
Right.
And you have grape nuts. Have you ever actually tried grape nuts or just
Apple Jacks is another one. Like, good luck. It sounds good in theory, and then you eat it, and it's like, this is awful.
Well, it's apple based. How good could it be?
Why do you want apple? Why do you?
Apple,
I
if
don't
you're
mind
powering
apple
fruits,
slices
apple's like
in
well
a
below.
regular
Like,
cereal, but why are we having apple flavored? No fruit flavored cereals. Like, just get rid of them all.
speaking of grape nuts, have you ever actually had grape? I just know the reputation. It's like old people like it, or I guess old people eat it. I've never had grape nuts before, but
I've had
it's got a
grape
bad
nuts when I was
reputation.
younger. My parents only bought healthy cereals.
Okay.
My parents only bought. The only time that I only got my good cereals once I actually moved out of my house. Right. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is where this is how the real stuff. Or when you're away on vacation or something and you get
The
the little
variety pack.
boxes,
Yeah, the
right?
variety pack.
Right, something like that. But grape nuts is not cereal. And grape nuts literally is just like, it's like eating gravel. Like, that's all it is. Like, it has to be a bad cereal. It has to. When the actual commercials for grape nuts, if you've seen commercials, if you've seen the marketing for grape nuts,
it's old
the
people eating
marketing
cereal.
for grape nuts is, this is great with fruit. It's like, that
you got to add
shouldn't be your
something.
lead thing. Your lead thing shouldn't be this. You have to add other stuff to it.
You're giving me a project now.
Right. You're right. You're giving me you're giving me work to do. And no, I'm not gonna take the work. Grape nuts is awful. It's it's awful and expensive and heavy. And it comes in a small box. It comes in a small, thin box, and you're like, and you pick it up and you go, why is this 400 pounds? And why does it cost $19? And then you pour it out and you go, I could have gone to Home Depot and just bought gravel, and it probably would be better.
I don't know what the going rate on gravel is. I feel like gravel's not that cheap, but I don't know. TJ Moose Manzada says, how dare you besmirch the good name of Count Chocula? Get him out of here. I wasn't besmirching. I as like a child, sure. And it's probably still fine today. Cloud's talking about rice checks. I'm a fan of rice checks. If I'm going to have cereal, that's one of the first things I would go for, I would imagine. Producer Steve.
Rice checks is nothing. It's like eating air. What the hell are you going to do with rice checks?
They have a lot of flavor options too.
Rice Krispies at least is a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, they got the popping thing down. Like, nobody that is their they've locked that down. Nobody else does popping like Rice Krispies, as far as I know. They've got the monopoly on that for sure. Producer Steve is not a fan.
Do you eat cereal for the taste or the sound? I eat it for the taste. I don't care what it sounds like.
The ambiance, that doesn't hurt.
I'm not looking to have a conversation with my cereal. No, just shut up. Shut up and taste good.
Phil in chat says honeycombs. Does honeycombs still exist? I feel like I haven't seen a box of honeycombs.
I would put honeycomb. I would put in the middle. Honeycomb, honey grams. Right, honey, because essentially honey grams is like cinnamon toast crunch that grew up in the projects or something, right? Like honey grams are like, oh, you couldn't afford the cinnamon powder, and it's like, oh, it's that. I mean, that's probably literally what it is. Honey grams is literally cinnamon toast crunch without the cinnamon, essentially.
I don't think I've ever had it before. Golden grams also be
Golden grams. That's what I'm talking about. Golden grams. Yeah.
Producer Steve's got your back on that one. More lineups coming through. Nope, not really. I guess we have everything, but we're still waiting for the last game, which we might not get. Crunch time might get, and maybe into the slate. I think we'll probably get at least one of those, Texas and Washington. It is an hour after the latest game, but we have the lineups for the first 4 games, which is nice. Now we have our tiers set. We have to power rank the teams, Blender. So let's get to it. Let's bring up the tiers once again, if you don't mind, Producer Steve. Rockies, Marlins. I assume the roof is closed today in Miami. Underwhelming the offenses were yesterday, 7.5 total. I believe they had a 9 total yesterday, which has seemed pretty high for those two offenses. I know the pitching was bad as well. But yeah, Lambert versus Cabrera. Cabrera is going to be heavily owned. If you want to fire up that leverage there for Colorado, Tovar, Doyle, McMahon, Montero, Rogers. The prospect Beck moved up a little bit. Cave, Stallings, and Goodman. Beck and Goodman, both rookie prospects, theoretically. I think Beck is seen as being a better build-around guy long-term than Goodman as far as the organization. But the Rockies are a horrendous organization, and they don't net a draft or sign players or anything. They don't net a baseball. Rockies against Cabrera. Where would you put them? What tier?
Rockies against Cabrera, I'd probably put in the Lucky Charms tier. And the only reason they're not on the last tier is because And I mean, I would also put the Nationals there as well. They're probably the two worst teams, but
We go game by game here, Blunder.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm taking care of it. Oh, what does it matter?
Because there's a system.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to make my own system.
We live in a society, Blunder.
Not on this show. This is a really bad system. Lord of the Rings. The only reason the Rockies are on the fourth tier and not the fifth tier is because playing batters against a 50% owned pitcher on a 5-game slate is never.
Yeah.
It can never be the worst thing to do. And that's why I would put the Nationals in the fourth tier as well.
Okay. That makes sense.
It's the same point that I was going to make there. So do you understand how I structured it? That I wasn't just going to skip around games. It's like, I don't want to say the same thing twice. So there, it's the same concept.
Well, Blunder, what do you mean you don't want to say the same thing twice? We have an hour and 10-minute show. We talk about 5 baseball games. I mean, we're going to repeat ourselves. That's what we signed up for. You have to save
at least 25 minutes for cereal. I mean, that takes up most of the time, right?
All right. So I guess we can spoiler alert throw the leverage spots. They're in the same tier, but you have a lean as far as Colorado or Washington. I think
I would put Washington.
I think I would take Washington
ahead of Colorado.
Yeah. It's a better ballpark, better players, better prices. CJ Abrams is clearly the best player amongst both those teams. You can get a homer out of Meneses on the cheap. You can get a homer out of Rosario on the cheap, theoretically. Senzel's pretty cheap. So Young's got some wheels, so still some bases. We don't know what the lineup is, but I presume our projected lineup is more or less going to be it. Is producer Steve guessing, or did you mention the Marlins? I don't know if he's just playing his own little game, which I like.
The Marlins.
He's got him already in a spot. Maybe don't look at the board.
I'm fine with that spot. I'm fine with the spot. So that's fine.
I like how he's playing his own game. He's just kind of like anticipating. This is where it will go about, right? Explain the Marlins in the middle.
The Marlins aren't. I don't think they're going to be nearly as owned as some of the other teams. Lambert doesn't really strike out many people. Lambert, contact pitcher. I don't think the Marlins should be that far behind, the Cubs, the Red Sox, or even the Orioles, I just think they'll be lower owned than some of these other a bit lower owned because people don't like playing the Marlins. But I think the ceiling for the Marlins lineup is considerably lower than teams like the Rangers and the Yankees and the Orioles.
All right. Yankees, Baltimore. We talked about the heat today in Baltimore, 92 degrees, wind blowing out to right field about 6 miles per hour. We got the fire emoji, rare fire emoji. Can't wait to get a whole bunch of them as the season progresses. But 9 total. Bradish versus Rodon, 2 of the better pitchers, 2 of the better offenses. Let's start with the Yankees first.
I'd probably put both teams in the second tier. I think the Orioles are going to be more owned than the Yankees. Obviously, Cowser in the lineup takes away like a cheaper, like if Ramon Urias was there, it'd be easier to make those stacks. The Yankees don't have Stanton, so they're a little bit cheaper, because you don't have to play Stanton anymore, and you could spend a little bit less. But from a ceiling perspective, both these teams are in spots where I wouldn't put them on the. I'm not even sure if there is a top tier team on this slate. But the Yankees and Orioles are in the best hitting weather. They both have power in their lineups, and they're facing could be good pitchers, could also be bad pitchers. So the variance is going to be much higher. I'm not opposed to playing the pitchers for that variance, but if you're not playing Rodon or Bradish, I would suggest at least having someone from that game in your lineup, even if you're not stacking either of the teams.
McCann or McKenna is a question in chat. I assume that's a FanDuel question for utility. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense because McCann is catcher and catcher only. I'm curious. I wanted to see what Carty has for pinch hit risk. So I feel like both those guys, but especially McKenna, to me, feels like pretty high risk of a pinch hit. Let's see.
Someone like Mullins or so. Dude.
Yeah, Mullins is lurking.
Yeah, they're going to come out when a righty pitches.
Yeah. I mean, you have a preference amongst those two? I don't. They're both kind of like meh. I think I'd probably play McCann.
If it's FanDuel, I would have to assume that McCann is going to be much less owned, being that FanDuel, you don't have to play a catcher, and if people do play a Baltimore catcher, it's going to be Rushman.
Well, you don't have to play a dude playing at home who's not good hitting in the 9-hole either. So like that's like also like nothing appealing about McKenna. He's in the 9-hole, right? I'm pretty sure he is.
Well, I'm assuming the guy is stacking the Orioles in some way, so it's like playing one of the cheaper guys.
Somebody's asking about Arise should be the highest owned player. Like, never should Arise be the highest owned player. Like, he just doesn't really. I mean, sure, he will every once in a while he'll hit a homer, but it's not something he really does. Second base position on the whole is not good either. But like, if Arise is going to be super popular, I don't need that, and I don't. We got him at 15% on DK for what it's worth. Mateo at 21, Semien at 30%. He's certainly the best option. If you have the salary, I think corner is pretty interesting if he's only going to be 10% leading off there versus the Mets. Some pop, some speed. You knocked out Baltimore and New York. We got the Cubs. Producer Steve's ready to go with the Cubs. I'm going to be playing Cubs. I have at the very least in Corn Pops. I got him in Corn Pops. So this is your board.
I got him more in Honey Nut Cheerios. I feel like the C goes for the cheer. Yeah, I can't put the Cubs in the same breath as the Yankees or the Orioles playing in 90-degree weather. Even though they're facing Adrian Hauser.
They have a better matchup, but worse ballpark, a better matchup. And it is hot there. I see Alex and chat talking about the ballpark stinking. Yes, the ballpark in New York does stink, but it's pretty good hitting. As that ballpark goes, it's pretty good hitting weather, right? Weather Edge, I think, like that a fair bit. Let me pull that up. We got Roth coming in about 10 minutes or so, as well as SquirrelPatrol and DerekCarty. I believe it's DerekCarty coming in. It is officially yellow in Boston. I'll let you guys read this at your own leisure, but there is a little bit of a caution there. Temperatures around 80 for the Mets. Winds blowing out the center at 10 miles per hour, according to the Ross article. Let's see. Yeah, so 121 game sample for the Mets and Chicago. We've seen a bump in home runs at over 13%, a bump in runs at 12% with the current conditions. Good hitting weather in Boston as well. 111 games, 67 degrees, wind blowing out basically to dead center, left center at 8 miles per hour, a bump in homers at 11%, a bump in runs at 9%. So, maybe we'll get a few more runs today. The Mets, where do you have the Mets? No Lindor.
Probably Lucky Charms.
Yeah, that's where I got him too.
I mean, the bottom of this order, I mean, I don't mind the top. I mean, the thing is that, Ben Brown is not good, but he's not, bad. But the bottom of this order just, it's hard. Because remember, we're ranking these based on stacks. So we're talking about, 5. We're talking 5-man stacks on DraftKings.
It doesn't have to be 5-man.
I don't know who these other guys that I'm going to be playing are because, I don't mind the top of their order, but the bottom is just so they don't project. I mean, they don't project all that well. I mean, do I want to play Brett Batty in a third base spot? I mean, they're cheap.
He's got a little pop.
Alonso.
Narniak asks, does Jazz do jazz hand when he hits a dong? He doesn't do jazz hands. He does the Euro. He does a Euro step. He Euro steps around the bases. I think around third base and maybe at home as well. But I don't think he does jazz hands. I'm pretty sure.
We got a Rangers lineup, by the way, that just came in.
Tell me how it looks.
Okay, Semien, Seager, Lowe, Garcia, Heim, Josh Smith batting 6th, Wyatt Langford 7th, then Duran and Carter. So no Wenzel, no Tavares. It's going to be Duran and Evan Carter's batting 9th. So no one's playing that guy. I mean, he's 5,300 or something?
He's a lefty, right? Is that why they're burying him?
Yes.
I'm pretty sure he's a lefty.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's an interesting little game theory play. But, yeah. Okay. They're really burying him today, huh? That's interesting. Still waiting for Washington. K-Town's Fine is asking about Washington. Thoughts on Abrams, Winker, Ruiz stacked to go? Yeah, I don't mind that at all. I have no issues with that. And I would also say, and you probably are going to be against this, but I think you can roster a hitter against your pitcher today. You're expecting a clean sheet out of your pitcher today, and your expectations are too high. Eovaldi probably gives up a run or two. Is it Cabrera probably gives up a run or two. Now, to thread that needle is tricky. It's tough, obviously, but I would just say it's okay. I'm not actively looking to do it, Blender, but I'm willing to. I'm okay with playing a hitter against my pitcher. Your thoughts?
I mean, it's fine. They're a power hitter, sure. Yeah, but let them make sure that they're a power hitter.
Power or speed?
Solo shot. Or
speed's not bad either.
What? Someone mentioned CJ Abrams. Who's paying $5,700 for CJ Abrams today?
He's good now, Blender. He's good now. He's very good.
I mean, he doesn't project. I mean, for that salary, I mean, like, dude, he projects like 3 points lower than any other people at that salary.
I'm just telling you, he is on his way to being a stud.
Well, I mean, I'll play Corey Seager ahead of CJ Abrams. Good luck. Good luck running me down with 5,700 CJ Abrams against Nathan.
It's baseball. There's like a 49% chance that CJ Abrams is better than Seager today, basically.
Oh, but there's other people. I mean, play Gunnar Henderson, play Aaron. You're telling me you're going to play CJ Abrams over like Judge in the spot of your line?
You absolutely can, but I'm going to tell you this though. You look at the advanced stats as far as CJ Abrams, the xWOBA 94th percentile, the X batting average 96th percentile, the X slug 94th percentile, sweet spot 92nd percentile. His speed is 81st percentile. He's good. This was the number one piece of the Juan Soto trade a couple of years ago, and that's coming to fruition for Washington. Shout out to Washington, because not only is Abrams like looking really, really good and like going to be a future All-Star, but Mackenzie Gore. It's finally happening for Mackenzie Gore too. So good on Washington. Squirrel's going to come on and tell you you're wrong. By the way, Squirrel's going to come on. That's his team. And he's going to tell you you're wrong about CJ Abrams because you think this guy stinks and he has no power.
I don't think he stinks. I'm looking at the projections, Dean. I'm not making this opinion out of nowhere. I'm like, all these other guys that are 6K are projecting for 10 plus points median wise. And this guy is like 7.5. And I'm like, what am I doing? Unless obviously if you're stacking the Nationals, yeah. Okay, I'll give you credit for that. But like, as a one-off, why am I going to give up that much projection for no reason?
Moki in chat says, this is why you need to watch the games, Blender. You got to watch the games. San Francisco, Boston.
With projections. Why don't I just watch the games and just make up numbers?
It's all in the projections. San Francisco and Boston.
I'd probably put. I mean, this is going to be a bad tiers list for today. I put both of them in Honey Nut Cheerios.
It's congested, right? There's nothing that's super high. There's
nothing. I don't think there's going to be a cinnamon toast crunch. There's not going to be a cinnamon toast crunch stack, and there's not going to be a grape nut stack today. I don't think it's a 5-game slate. It's hard for me to put anything into grape nuts because it's a 5-game slate, and you can play anyone.
My inclination is to always throw like the Marlins and the Rockies and grape nuts just because. But like I get why you wouldn't necessarily. It's a small slate.
But I'm breaking this not just based on projection, but based on ownership. Yeah. Like you got to adjust for that. If this was a 12-game slate, then I'd be putting these teams in the grape nuts. But there's also no cinnamon toast. I can't. Out of all these teams, like San Francisco, I would put the game environment in Baltimore, the Yankee Oriole game, the highest. But I mean, the prices. The pitchers could be good, and ownership is also there. So, like, I can't think they're not cinnamon toast crunch. Sorry.
Crunch time coming in a few minutes. Our official board, like 2 of the 5 tiers are just empty. They're blank. We got corn pops with the Yankees and Baltimore taking on each other. A little game stack. People love their game stack. The middle is really congested with Honey Nut Cheerios. You got the Marlins, the Cubbies, Texas, Boston, San Fran. Lucky Charms is the only other tier that has any teams. That's Washington, Colorado, the Mets, and Grape Nuts is all by itself. It's got nothing. What is up with the chat? But by the way, the chat's letting us know that according to the bat, Abrams is projected higher than everybody else except for Seager, just for the record. I assume that's shortstop or is that all positions? I don't know. I didn't check that.
I'm assuming shortstop, yes.
Judge is probably projected higher on the whole.
Right. I'm not just comparing it to shortstops. I'm comparing it to anyone in any position.
Well, why would you compare a shortstop versus a first baseman?
I'm I'm building lineups that could have one-offs in them. So it's like a matter of, do I play CJ Abrams as a one-off at shortstop, or do I fill whatever shortstop from that team and then play Aaron Judge or something, or Juan Soto or something like that? CJ Abrams in the bat is 8.35, right? Corey Seager's is Seager, Judge, Soto, O'Neill, Chisholm, Jung-Ho Lee, Soler, Semien, Duran, Henderson. I mean, like that. There's like 15 people higher than CJ Abrams from a raw point. This is from a raw point projection, and some of these guys are like Soler is like 4,500, right? Some of these guys are much cheaper. So
Soler is really
playing
nice
the
on
national
FanDuel, by the way.
stack, sure,
He's
play
like 2.9 over
Abrams,
there.
but I don't know about playing him as a one-off and just sacrificing projection for no reason.
I'm okay playing Abrams as a one-off if it kind of works, but like, yeah, I probably will play. I don't really want to pick on Eovaldi, and again, he probably gets at least 2 at-bats. He probably gets 5 at-bats. Assuming things go fairly well for Washington, they get 9 hits and walks combined and ignoring double plays, right? Errors, however you want to do that math. They're on the road. They're locked in for 9. He's leading off. So like there's 2 at-bats he's going to get off the bullpen. He could walk or get a single off Eovaldi, who cares, and steal a base or 2. I'm just saying, like, that's one of the things you can work Eovaldi.
I mean, I could go down that rabbit hole and say that about any. I mean, Ryan McKenna has 3 grand slams today because
stop.
He walked
Please.
this
Now you're
guy
being
and then this guy.
You're being hyperbolic. Ryan McKenna, you're
I can
insulting
make up
CJ
any
Abrams.
scenario.
Well, sure, yeah. There's a non-zero chance, I suppose, that Ryan McKenna hits 3 grand slams. But let me tell you something. You ready? I only need to shake this magic 8-ball up, Thunder. No, it's not happening. He's not even hitting 1 grand slam. No grand slams for Ryan McKenna. He might have done
the Rangers could delay this. Maybe the Rangers are postponing this game because the Nationals front office, like, they infiltrated the Texas front office, and the Nationals always screw around with postponement. You never know. It could be one of these things. I mean, I've been watching the news. People have been breaking into buildings and stuff. The National, you never know. The front office comes in, and next thing you know, games are canceled. We got beehives. We have games delayed due to beehive. Deed, anything could happen. Anything could happen.
You're a big math guy, a big probability guy. What is the probability of the Nationals front office infiltrating the Texas front office?
I think the Nationals front office. I mean, the Rangers are favored today. I think what they should do is bring a beehive to the game and hope that the game does get delayed.
How do you travel? You ever travel with a beehive? That feels like it's got a disaster waiting to happen. Do you check a beehive? How does that work?
Obviously there are services that bring bee. I mean, the local beekeeper, right?
You got a guy?
You can bribe the local. Yeah, you get a guy.
Did you see the guy, the bee guy from Arizona? He's getting his own Topps card now. Now it's gone too far, right? This guy's getting too much love.
No, keep
Topps
the bit going. I want the bit to get. I want him to get his own ESPN show. I want it to go even further. Just keep on going. I want him to be the PC pick for the Republicans. Let's keep on going. Let's just make it go even further.
What is his half-hour show going to be on you? About bees? Or are we assuming he knows a little bit about sports too? Like following First Take? Coming up next, it's none of your business.
No, he'll just be the host. Dean, it'll be one of these shows with talking heads where he's the host and you call it The Hive. It'll be one of those types of things.
That actually would work if the guy was, yeah. That's there you go. All right, we should have crunch time knocking on the door and coming in shortly. I believe we have again, unless it shuffled up a little bit. I'm pretty sure it's Roth and Squirrel subbing in, as well as DerekCarty. Because what we have lock in, I went to UCF, so math is tricky for me.
28 minutes.
28 minutes, yeah. It feels like it's coming in pretty quickly. So crunch time should be knocking on the door momentarily. They're saying I'm jealous. Who am I jealous of? The B guy? Did I come off being? I thought the B story was great, and I was a big fan of the B guy. But yeah, I don't know what was I coming off jealous. That wasn't my intent there. I was thankful for the B guy because otherwise they would not have played baseball. We should bring in crunch time. Carty's coming in shortly, but we have 2/3 of crunch time. We got Kevin Roth. We got SquirrelPatrol. Let's bring him in. Roth, Squirrel. Just to give you an update, if you haven't watched the show, Blender has been CJ Abrams Like, tell him it's not 2021 anymore. Tell him it's even like good now.
Yeah, I heard besmirching happening. Besmirching the name of CJ Abrams. No, I mean he's a good shortstop with power and speed, so I like him as a DFS option. And I agree, like that Juan Soto trade is looking better and better for the Nationals. And if James Wood, looks, if he's the real deal, then it goes from like a pretty good trade to like, ooh, this could be like a franchise like altering trade. So yeah, but yeah, CJ Abrams good, deserves the high price tag. People don't play him enough. Yeah, well, I won't stand for the besmirching.
And it looks especially bad for San Diego. Essentially got Soto as a loner. What, a year? 2 years maybe? How long did they have him for? Not very long.
Yeah, season and a half.
Bad job by San Diego. Blender, there you go. You gonna take Squirrel's word for it at least?
I'm still not putting him in the Cinnamon Toast Crunch tier.
Yeah.
I gotta ask, why is Cinnamon Toast Crunch the highest tier? That confused the hell out of me.
What other possible cereal? Cinnamon Toast Crunch is the Wayne Gretzky of cereals. It's the
just pure
LeBron of
sugar.
cereal.
It's horrible for you. Honey Nut Cheerios
No, that's what
is
you
the goat.
want.
Honey Nut Cheerios is delicious,
and
and it's not just a bag of sugar dumped on your breakfast food.
it's definitely better than Cookie Crisp, which are just cookies. Right?
I kind of like Cookie Crisp. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, you can't make both arguments.
I know.
Rob.
I know.
You can't argue against sugar and be pro Cookie Crisp. You got to take a side. I just like the timely reference of Wayne Gretzky. No Bobby Orr takes a Blender. Anybody else you want to throw out there from back in the day, hockey wise? All right. We should get out of here because 25 minutes or so the slate starts. The people want to hear what Carty has to say. They want to hear what Squirrel has to say. Do hit that like button. Do subscribe. Do turn on those notifications. Check out the descriptions on ways to get yourself some RotoGrinders Premium. Roth will tell you more about that. But myself and Blender, we wish you a good rest of the day. And stick around. It's crunch time. You got Squirrel, you got Carty, you got Roth. Roth, take it away.
Good stuff. As always, welcome to it, ladies and gents. If you are one of those people that eats a super sugary cereal for breakfast, like, how are you still alive? How have you survived the last 20 years of doing this? I don't know. We did it as kids because we didn't know any better, but that just seems insane. Two guys, I feel like Carty is a healthy breakfast eater, if not a downright skip breakfast. Carty, what is your go-to for breakfast?
Yeah, I skip breakfast.
Locked it, nailed it. Cup of black coffee instead?
No, I don't do coffee. I'll do green tea though.
Okay, all right. There you go. I should have seen that one coming as well. We got Squirrel in the house as well. Squirrel, breakfast of choice.
Yeah, I broke open a box today of cinnamon Captain Crunch. Saw it at the grocery store. Got it. That's actually how I got my daughter out of bed. I said, if you get up now, you can open the cinnamon Captain Crunch. And she pulls it out of bed. But I'm like, I'm getting in on this too. I'm gonna try the cinnamon Captain Crunch. So yeah, not the healthiest breakfast, but if it gets my daughter out of bed, then yeah.
It's a different ball game when you're dealing with kids. Like whatever goes, whatever works, you got to make it happen.
I am wondering though, if we're having this discussion about kids cereal and sugary, how is Count Chocula not being mentioned by anybody? Like that's clearly tier A.
It's delicious, and it was just the coolest cereal. I mean, Count Chocula was awesome. Yeah, I'm with you. That's got to be at the top. Let's see. Green tea every morning, Izzy says. Mochi says, preservatives preserve you, Roth. I don't quite think that's how it goes.
Sure, that's how it works.
Anyways, welcome to it, ladies and gentlemen. This is Crunch Time. Kind of a condensed show, a condensed slate. No weather concerns outside of a low chance of a delay in Boston. I had it initially as yellow. I might go back and put it back to like yellow-green just to lower that delay risk a little bit. But that's it. That's really the only spot where you could see any trouble. And I expect it less now than I did this morning. And that's pretty much all I got. Let's talk about the slate. Carty, you want to walk through pitchers for me?
Yeah, so it's a short slate. We have a lot of really gross pitchers on it. Best one, though, is Edward Cabrera. He's in Miami against Colorado, who's terrible. They strike out a lot. Cabrera is clearly the top guy. On FanDuel, he's the guy you're playing in cash. On DraftKings, you're playing him in cash, and you're probably pairing him there with Nathan Eovaldi, who is also one of the only like really truly like good pitchers on the slate, and he's facing a bad offense himself in Washington. That's your cash pairing. They're going to be the two chalkiest guys on this slate. So anything else you do is going to make you pretty different. Carlos Rodon, I think's interesting. I think he has the most ceiling of any of the other guys on the slate. So I think definitely having him in your GPP mix is good. And then I see him tagged by Squirrel, so maybe I won't talk about him too much, but I think Adrian Hauser is interesting as a GPP guy.
Okay, well, good transition, Squirrel. Let's talk about your overall game plan for pitchers.
I thought you were about to rip on Adrian Hauser and be like, I see Squirrel's got him tagged, so I'm not going to go into it too much.
The thing I like about Hauser is that he actually has a leash. A lot of these other guys don't. Like Bradish is coming back from injury. Ben Brown and Lambert are coming. Winkowski, too, are coming out of the bullpen. Like he's one of the only guys on this slate that theoretically could throw 105 pitches if if everything breaks right.
Yeah, so that's actually, that kind of leads into why I have him tagged. And to be clear, and I kind of tried to like write this into the blurb, that, like if I was like the only guy doing tags, I'd have like Edward Cabrera and like Nathan Eovaldi tagged. But like, if I'm looking for a pivot, I think Adrian Hauser is interesting. I think one of the best things in tournaments isn't necessarily strikeouts; it's like unexpected strikeouts. Like Adrian Hauser like doesn't really like strike out a bunch of guys, but he could go longer than some of the other pitchers on this list. And he's I think the cheapest guy on DraftKings, where you like need a SB2 sometimes, and he's the second cheapest guy on FanDuel. And he just shouldn't be the cheapest pitcher on this slate, even though there's only 5 games. He could go a little bit longer. Cubs strike out a little bit. I think they're a 9th K percentage against right-handed pitching this season so far. Lineup's a little bit watered down. Like if you can just look at the pitch count, and like he's got like I think the third highest pitch count on the slate. So yeah, he could provide those kind of unexpected strikeouts that like vault him into the third, second, fourth, kind of overall total score at the end of the slate for pitchers. And he gets you some bats that you can't afford otherwise.
Okay, very good. Well, let's talk about are you playing him on FanDuel where you only get one pitcher, or is this strictly a DK move for you?
I actually think you could play him on FanDuel as well as DraftKings, because he's not one of these guys. It's like 4,000 on DraftKings. It might go like 4 innings. Again, it's like the pitch count. Like, yeah, he might throw a quality start. And he in the ballpark as well. It's like one of the best ballparks in baseball for pitchers. So yeah, I mean, he could go 6 innings, give up 2 runs, 4 strikeouts, get the quality start, win, and suddenly like he's in contention on FanDuel. Like if Edward Cabrera and Nathan Eovaldi have mediocre games, like he's in contention to have like the highest score on the slate.
Nice. So is your pitching pool strictly those 3 guys, Cabrera, Eovaldi, and Hauser?
No, I think especially on DraftKings, like where you have to play 2 pitchers, I think you can go down the list kind of. But I will probably have I'll probably have more Cabrera and Eovaldi than anybody else, to be clear. But I think like Adrian Hauser is in there for like the 3rd highest owned pitcher. Okay,
perfect. Love it. Let's talk about some of the bats and some of the stacks. And Squirrel, you can lead off that conversation, please.
Sure. Hold on. Let me go to my stacks tab. So I think in terms of stacks, I think the chalk is probably going to be Texas. And they're facing a Washington Nationals pitcher, Mitchell Parker, left-hander. He's like way too expensive on both FanDuel and DraftKings, I think. I think he's got some like strikeout potential, but also potential to just give up a bunch of runs to Texas. I tagged Adolis Garcia, I think today, and I think I've been tagging him against every Nationals left-hander. Like Garcia against left-handers at home for his career just destroys the baseball. And he has been working out this offseason. His home run prop, yesterday, I actually bet the no on his home run. He was like minus 200, but he had like a plus 175 home run prop on DraftKings, which is a little bit crazy. But like
you would say he is a certified lefty masher, perhaps?
Yeah. I mean, he hits right-hander as well. Like James McCann, I think is actually on the slate, so we don't want to.
We don't want to steal that. Okay,
he's the OG.
Yeah, James McCann's been so great against lefties the last 4 years.
Yeah. So Adolis Garcia, I don't really consider him like a lefty masher for multiple reasons, but he hits right-handers, well as well.
Okay.
But left-handers at home, like kind of surprising numbers, and it's career numbers, right? So it's not just like, this season against 15 plate appearances. So yeah, I think Texas is the top stack, and that Corey Seager is left-handed, but still hits left-handers well. You've got Marcus Semien. You can kind of go down the list. I think Ezekiel Duran actually just got into the lineup. He's always a guy that I like playing in the 8th position because he's not going to be owned. And I think he's eligible on FanDuel at every position except for second base, I think, and pitcher. So yeah, Texas is the top stack. I like Baltimore actually as like the number 2 stack. The weather, like I opened my door this morning again, like getting my daughter dressed. I'm like, oh, it's gonna be like 90 something today.
Yeah,
You
it's going to be like almost 100. It's insane.
so the weather conducive for hitting the ball long way.
Very
Orioles have a number of guys who can do that against left-handed pitchers. Carlos Rodon's probably not a name people are necessarily jumping off the page to stack against, but I think the Orioles second best stack. Boston as well, I think, is up there, and then San Francisco again. Fenway Park, good park for hitting, can go either side of that game. Those are probably the top 4.
Okay, very good. Carty, your thoughts stack wise? You're kind of nodding along like, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mostly agree. Texas is the top stack. I think the Giants are really good. I think the Yankees are maybe more viable than the field's going to give them credit for, just because they're against Bradish, who's good, but he's coming back from injury. We don't know if he's got some rust. He's not going to have a full leash. So I think the Yankees are kind of interesting. And even though I like Hauser in GPPs, I think you can definitely stack Cubs against him. It's a good stolen base spot. They're, when you consider price and ownership, like they look pretty good. And kind of same thing for like Marlins against Peter Lambert. Like I think some of the cheap Marlins stuff is definitely fine.
Okay, great. Let's go around the horn. I do have to note, I was just placed under a severe thunderstorm warning, which means my power could go out, or I could have a cheese moment where lightning strikes the house and I make a really ridiculous face. All of that's on the table here over the next 15 minutes. So just giving you a heads up. You never know what's going to happen. By the way, if you're watching this on YouTube and you're like, hey, what am I paying for this? I can't remember. It's free. It's absolutely free, which is incredible. All you got to do is hit that thumbs up. That's all we ask. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe for free content from 2 of the sharpest minds in the biz. Carty, let's start at the catcher spot.
Sure. All right. So Adley Rutschman is the top guy today, but he's so expensive. I don't think you have to get up to Rutschman. You can play him as a one-off, but Connor Wong is, I think, the guy that makes the most sense price-wise today. He's 3.4K. Doesn't project that much worse than Rutschman. He's in Fenway at home, middle of the lineup against a lefty. I think Wong's a good choice. On the other side of that game, you have Patrick Bailey, who I think's fine. I think Keibert Ruiz against Nathan Eovaldi is like the low-owned sneaky guy that I like today. You'll get a little bit of leverage off of Eovaldi. People probably aren't going to play him with Wong and Bailey in better spots right there. But Ruiz is the better hitter, so I think he's interesting.
Okay, Squirrel.
Yeah, I would just add one more name like Jonah Heim. Getting the tune advantage against Mitchell Parker. He's in the 5th spot of that Texas lineup that we like. There's only like 10 guys at a lot of these positions. Sometimes I think even less. But yeah, I think Rutschman, Jonah Heim, Wong are the top guys. And there's a little bit of a drop off. Maybe Patrick Bailey is somebody at 3,500 who's like probably not going to see that much ownership. And he's hitting in Fenway Park.
Okay, great. How about first base?
First base. So I think Ryan Mountcastle, again, that Orioles lineup is probably the top stack that I like, ownership considered. But they are expensive. Wilmer Flores is only 3,500 or 3,400, sorry, on DraftKings, first base eligible. Again, he's hitting in Fenway Park. Nate Lowe. I get them confused. Nate Lowe, 4,100 on DraftKings. He's got a lefty-lefty matchup, so that might take ownership down a little bit, but I like his spot, third in the Rangers lineup. Maybe Josh Bell.
I like to remember it by saying that the rapper Nate Dogg had a very low voice, so it's Nate Lowe. That's kind of my little mnemonic device. Yeah. If you are a rap fan, that may work for you. If not, that's not going to help you at all. Carty, first base, what do you got?
I like Nate Lowe quite a bit also today. I think he's great. I think he's too cheap. And Wilmer Flores, even though it's righty-righty, we know Wilmer Flores is a lefty masher. I like him against the righty today. He's in Fenway. The lefty masher stuff is nonsense. He's against one of the weaker pitchers on the slate. And he's really cheap. 3-4 on DraftKings, 2-4 on FanDuel. I think he's one of the top overall options. So he's great. I like the Baltimore stuff too. Mountcastle, Rutschman, Santander on FanDuel. They're all good. And then maybe more of an option at third than at first, but Patty the Tooth, I think, is certainly in play in GPPs today.
I approve. All right, second base, Carty.
Marcus Simeon's going to be your top guy, kind of in a tier by himself. Pretty easy to get on FanDuel, not as easy on DraftKings, but you certainly can try to do it. It's a great spot for Texas. They're the top offense. He's great. Nico Horner, I like quite a bit in GPPs. It's a pretty good stolen base spot. Hasn't been running a ton this year, but that speed is there. It's a really shallow position today. So I like Horner. I like Gleyber Torres in tournaments against Bradish, certainly in those Yankee stacks. And if you just want to punt it, Jorge Mateo against Carlos Rodon for 3K on DraftKings is probably the guy you do it with.
Very good. Squirrel, second base.
Yeah, I think we're actually dealing with less than 10 names, possibly. No, I guess 11 on DraftKings. But yeah, I think Marcus Simeon's the clear top option. But I like the Orioles guys almost as well. Jordan Westburg and Jorge Mateo. And like Carty said, yeah, Jorge Mateo is really cheap. He's second base outfield eligible. Get him a tour stop as well on FanDuel. Tyro Estrada, I think is maybe the only other name I'd throw in there. He's hitting seventh. But yeah, Nico Horner is leading off for the Cubs. Like I don't like the Cubs today, but you potentially get an extra plate appearance or so. Leading off as the road team. So Nico Horner definitely in play. If I'm gonna try to name one more name, maybe Ryan McMahon.
Okay, how about third?
So third base, I think Rafi Devers, Matt Chapman, both in Fenway Park, on different teams. Devers is getting the lefty-lefty matchup. Could affect ownership. He'll still probably be the highest owned third baseman. Let's see. Jordan Westburg, third base eligible on DraftKings. Christopher Morel, again, he's in a bad ballpark, but he's on the road team, so maybe he gets an extra plate appearance. He's sitting fourth. And then maybe I'm going to add one more name, maybe Josh Smith, fairly affordable on both FanDuel and DraftKings, getting a lefty-lefty matchup, but still good. Oh, and Ezekiel Duran, I'll say he's pretty much cheap and eligible at every position, so just play him wherever you want. But he's definitely in play.
Okay, great. Carty, I want your thoughts at third. And Maryi Donyeezy says, please take it easy on the keyboard, Carty. I don't know how many of those you've had to replace in your lifetime, but you could cut that expense out of your budget entirely. You don't have to buy a new one every month because you're pounding on it. Just a reminder, do as you wish. Third base.
I'm pretty much in agreement here. Matt Chapman is my favorite of the options. I actually like him maybe a little bit more than Devers. He'll probably come in a little lower owned. He's a little bit cheaper. So give me Chapman there. Josh Smith, I like in that Texas lineup. I think as Duran will probably be like the cheaper guy that people like, but I think Emmanuel Rivera is just as good and he's cheap. So you can do him as well. And Patty the Tooth again here at third is a good play.
Okay, great. I want shortstop, and I'm going to step off just to open my window shades because the storm is here, and I'm a weatherman. I need to watch the storm. I can't miss that, so I'll be right back.
Shortstop has a very clear top tier, and it's Corey Seager, and it's nobody else. Play Seager and cash on both sites. Play him in your Texas stacks. He's fantastic. You can do other stuff as well. Gunnar Henderson and CJ Abrams are good. I don't think they're on the same level as Seager, so just give me Seager. In terms of cheaper stuff, I think Anthony Volpe's interesting. I think Rafaela in the Red Sox lineup is interesting. On FanDuel, Josh Smith and Tyro Estrada are good cheap options, but really, it's kind of just Seager for me.
Okay, Squirrel short.
Yeah, I agree. Corey Seager, but the one caveat is I think he might be the highest owned hitter on the slate, just because there aren't that many options at shortstop. And it's not that difficult to see a world where CJ Abrams outscores him. CJ Abrams then becomes the guy you need to have at shortstop if you're trying to get the absolute perfect lineup. And one thing with the Nationals, I'm not going to be going crazy with the Nationals, but I do feel like on these day slates, the team that doesn't have their lineup in always goes under-owned, particularly if they're a little bit off the radar, off the board. So I think CJ Abrams is an option. I probably like Jordan Westburg a lot as well. the Corey Seager. It's one of those situations. Corey Seager is going to be my highest owned shortstop in my multi-entry. Something crazy happening with the weather. All right. So yeah. But I'll be under the field on Seager, and like I'll be spreading that ownership out amongst like some of the Orioles guys, Westberg, like especially on FanDuel, Jordan Westberg, Jorge Mateo, Gunnar Henderson.
Okay, I have no idea how my power stayed on those like 70-mile-per-hour winds, just destroying my home. All right, outfield, what do we got?
Oh, outfield. Dallas Garcia, Tyler O'Neill, Aaron Judge. I like Jorge Soler for only 2,800 on FanDuel, and 4,500 on DraftKings. That's a pretty good price. He's getting a great ballpark upgrade. Jaron Duran as well in Fenway, and Anthony Santander. Roth might be gone. All right, let's take it to the outfield, Carty.
Yeah, so I like a lot of the same guys. I think Judge on FanDuel is awesome. He's way too cheap. I really like the San Francisco guys today. Jung-Ho Lee, you mentioned Soler, Michael Conforto, and Jaron Duran on the other side of that game for Boston. Rather, I like some of the Cubs stuff today too, especially on DraftKings for cheap. Like Pete Crow Armstrong for 2.9, I think is good. Mike Tauchman hitting second for 3.7, I think is good. Dane Myers as a punt from Miami, I think is definitely in play. That's outfield. Oh, and Tyler O'Neill on FanDuel is awesome.
Yeah. All right, let's go to chat for some questions.
Hey, can you guys give everyone just a home run call?
Oh yeah,
we can do that.
I'll go with my same home run call from the expert survey. I'll go with Anthony Santander. And you know what? Just for blunder, I might throw in a CJ Abrams inside the park home run.
Oh, all right, cool. Carty?
I'm going to go. The bad thing's the guy with the best chance today is Aaron Judge, but I like Matt Chapman a lot for a home run today. And I don't think he's going to be as popular as some of the other options at third.
All right. I'll see if I can grab the questions for you guys. I'm going to hit the Discord live stream chat channel first, and it looks like 2 QQs for DK GPPs. Can you chat their value at third base? Looking at Lipscomb, Senzel, Madrigal would be a 4-man Cubbies. And then his other question is Rizzo versus Bush.
I mean, third base, I don't think has a lot of good value today. Like a lot of those guys that he mentioned, really not on my radar. I think if you have to go down that cheap, it's probably like Ezekiel Duran or Emmanuel Rivera. But I think you find a way to get up to like a Josh Smith, a Patrick Wisdom, up to Chapman if you can. Yeah.
All right. And then Squirrel, you want to hit the other one?
Yeah, I would go with Michael Bush over Anthony Rizzo, despite Rizzo, I guess, being hot lately. Third base, I'd probably go like Ezekiel Duran, maybe Bobby Dahlbeck. He's getting the lefty-righty matchup there. He is a lefty masher, I presume.
Cool. All right. The next question looks like A. Garcia, which I don't know if it's a Dulles or not, and Dahlbeck. Or Seager and Duran for a DK GPP.
So what was it? Was Adolis Garcia and who?
Bobby Dahlbeck.
Compared to
and then it's Seager or Duran for DK GPP.
I'd probably go with Garcia and Dahlbeck.
All right. Guys, if you got any more questions, get them in the Discord. I'm going to check the YouTube chat. Scrolling up. I'm not seeing too many. I see one. Carty. Any stolen base like favorite plays today?
Yeah. So there's a fun one today. I mentioned earlier the Cubs matchup for stolen bases is pretty good, and some of their odds today look good. So Christopher Morel plus 850 looks good, and Patty the Tooth plus 1,400 to steal a base looks pretty good today.
That's a big number. Okay. Not too many questions. Favorite starting pitcher on FanDuel in a large field tournament?
I mean, favorite's got to be Edward Cabrera. But it just depends on your risk tolerance. Like if you want to go for it and load up with some like high price bats, we were talking about Adrian Hauser, and he's going to be much lower up.
Okay. Alex Santi, it was a bit earlier is when we were going position by position, asked if you guys have any interest in any of the Mets outfielders.
Not really for me.
I think like Starling Marte would be the one I'm the most interested in. Maybe Brandon Nimmo, but they're like one of the last teams as I start going down the outfield list where I actually find an outfielder today.
Gotcha. Better 3-man stack: Soto, Verdugo, and Rizzo, or O'Neill, Wong, and Cooper.
Hold on. Repeat that for me.
Are the Pirate? Is that the Pirates? It says better 3-man stack: Soto, Verdugo, and Rizzo, or O'Neill, Wong, and Cooper.
I think they're both good. I think I like the Red Sox one a little more.
Gotcha. Let's see. Daryl George, Yahoo GPP question. He says, I have Cleveland and Houston on today's slate. So what is today's top stack? Because he also, I guess, has the late game on the Yahoo site.
I would still go, I think, with Baltimore, like despite the fact that you get the extra game.
Baltimore.
But I think you go with Boston as well, or Texas.
Gotcha. They wanted to know if you could just remind them of the home run calls again.
I was Judge and Chapman as a more under the radar one.
I'll go with Anthony Santander.
Nice. And then Sven said, who was the second stolen base prop for? I believe that was Patrick Wisdom.
Yeah.
And then, all right. I think that might be it, guys. I think we hit all the questions. And I think we just hit lock, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys for being on the show today. I'm not really a great host, so I don't know how to. We'll catch you tomorrow.
You're building admirably.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Going
You
great.
have been crunched.